So you're on the Anthony Rogers show right now, and I just want to know, what's it like taking people's jobs? You feel good about yourself? Huh? You feel good? Oh, you're just gonna walk away? Oh, okay, bet, dude. Okay, bet. See ya. Oh, you wanna fight? Oh, okay. You wanna fucking go? You wanna fucking go, dude? Where is he going? Like, what is happening right now? Oh, now you wanna? Oh, okay, never mind. Hey guys, it's Nikki Knightley here. You probably recognize me from the Anthony Rogers show. Or maybe it's from my interracial gangbang on Pornhub. Who gives a shit? Anyways, we're giving away 4 general admission tickets to Daytona, Florida's Rockville concert. There's going to be bands there like Korn, Linkin Park, Shinedown, Smile Empty Soul, ICP, Green Day, and much, much more. If you'd like a chance to win, comment below on this video and follow us on Instagram at Rogers Show, and we'll pick a lucky winner. See you there.
Welcome to Rockville, North America's largest rock festival returns in 2025 with Green Day, Korn, Shinedown, and Linkin Park. Plus Bad Omens, Incubus, Good Charlotte, Rob Zombie, Alice in Chains, Pierce the Veil, Marilyn Manson, 3 Days Grace, Sublime, I Prevail, and so many more. Welcome to Rockville, May 15th to the 18th at the Daytona International Speedway. Passes on sale now at Welcome.
Hi everybody, it's Frankie MacDonald. I'm doing great so far. It's cold outside in Sydney, Nova Scotia right now. It's pretty cold where I'm at down Charlotte Street in Sydney, Nova Scotia. As of right now, 10 ahead. And I had a great birthday last week, and I had ice cream cake for Dairy Queen, vanilla exterior, chocolate interior, and I had a Swiss chalet on Saturday for my birthday dinner. Swiss chalet, Canada. I had a bacon cheeseburger. It was great. It was so great so far. Things going really well on my side. Things going great so far. See, how you doing? And then it had so much rain last Saturday in Sydney, Nova Scotia, back on April 26th during the evening hours to the April 27th. It was really high winds and heavy rain. Already happened in my hometown of Sydney, Nova Scotia, Saturday evening and this Sunday afternoon. Brought so much high winds and heavy rain. And Sydney, Nova Scotia was really bad. Where I'm at, it was so bad. There was lots of rain happening in my hometown in Sydney right now. And the weather in Los Angeles is supposed to get a little bit cooler than showers this weekend coming. And it brought severe weather in Iowa on Monday. It was really bad there. Lots of severe weather already happened in Iowa. In places like in Japan, it got warm air, cold air, fighting each other, got snow up in the mountains and rain in the lower elevations in Sapporo, Hokkaido, Japan. And lots of rain happening in East Coast of the United States this weekend coming. Lots of rain happening in Massachusetts, all the way up to Maine, USA this weekend coming. And lots of rain in different places in the States. So far. And things are going great so far. It's cool outside down Charlotte Street in Sydney right now. It's pretty cool outside where I'm at right now, down Charlotte Street in Sydney as of right now. I'm doing great these days. And things are going well. And it's cool outside in my hometown as of right now.
Man, you're here first. Frankie's weather. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the live weather report, man. That was good, man.
And it's cool outside in Sydney, Nova Scotia right now. I'm showing you Charlotte Street.
Nice, man.
Nice. Yeah, it was raining in LA like a couple days ago randomly.
It's been raining all day today in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yes, they had severe weather in Iowa on Monday, brought severe thunderstorms and hail and tornadoes and heavy downpours back on Monday in Iowa as well. It's going to bring more rain in interiors to the eastern United States this Saturday coming. It's going to bring lots of rain in Maine, USA, up around the parts of Quebec and all those places as well. It's going to bring lots of rain in different places in eastern United States and America and Pacific Northwest, and like Vancouver, Victoria, is going to bring lots of showers as well. And it's going to bring warm air, cold air, fighting each other. They had snow, Sapporo, Hokkaido, Japan, and rain. And all those places, warm air, cold air, fighting each other, Sapporo, Japan. And lots of rain, thunderstorms going on in Central Africa right now in the jungle.
That's crazy.
Even rain.
And did you hear about this? Few of my fans got in the picture taken with me last night. They went great so far.
Nice. You get recognized on the street, dude. That's awesome.
Yes, people encounter me on the street, and they recognize me a lot now.
Congrats, brother. That's awesome.
Awesome.
And then I'm having a great day today. I was just in Hot Water Show with Gino Piscante earlier today. He went great.
Very cool, brother. That's awesome.
Gino Piscante is also on Rumble as well.
Yeah, I heard a lot about him. I haven't seen his show yet, but I heard a lot about Gino. Tell me about him. I haven't met him, or I haven't been on. I haven't met him yet, but I watched the show or anything. But that's cool, man. Well, good job. Do you know anything about the JFK assassination? Before we get
that's long before I was born. I didn't even exist yet when that happened, and never existed in my life yet.
That's the best answer I've ever heard on the JFK.
It's not even here, dude.
Like, all right, episode over. We nailed it. We nailed it. Like,
I didn't even exist yet. I am now 41 years old since my birthday, and I'm 41 years old now.
Happy late birthday, Frank. That's awesome, man.
Happy birthday.
That's awesome. Happy late birthday. You look great for 41, my friend.
Yep.
And I had an ice cream cake Dairy Queen for my birthday. And guess what? I had Swiss chalet bacon cheeseburger for dinner. on Saturday, 2 days after my birthday. That was my birthday weekend. It went great so far. Things are going great so far. It's cool outside where I'm at right now in Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Did you get like trashed or go to a titty bar?
Things are great so far. And then I was doing the karaoke last Saturday night. Sydney, Nova Scotia had so much heavy rain. Saturday evening, I had to go home early because rain was so heavy, but it's really, really windy on Saturday evening that time. Then it's Sunday morning in the afternoon. It was heavy rain and really windy conditions in my hometown of Sydney, Nova Scotia. Umbrella wasn't powerful enough to handle the wind. That means high winds can break umbrellas.
The weather was too much for the umbrella. Is that what you said?
It was too much wind for umbrella. And high winds can easily break the umbrella.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's terrifying.
Really strong winds can break umbrellas and things like this.
Yeah. Checks out.
But so yeah, will you throw on any promo frame before we get out of here? I appreciate you coming on, doing the weather and stuff. You're a genius. We're gonna have the guests on here shortly.
If you want to follow me on social media, my blue sky is at Frankie MacD. My link tree is Frankie MacDonald. My threads is at Frankie MacD 94. My X4 me Twitter is at Frankie MacD. My link tree is Frankie MacDonald. And my blue sky is at Frankie MacD. And my Facebook is Frankie MacDonald. My Instagram is.
Nice.
Well, our guest today, like, is an expert on the JFK files. He wrote a couple books. I think he was a writer for the Washington Post, which is, I mean, pretty big deal. And then he's basically an American journalist. Wrote a bunch of books, but like the ones he wrote about a lot of stuff. But like in particular today, CIA and JFK, the secret assassination files, and then Morley with CIA, my unfinished investigation. Jefferson Morley, how you doing, brother?
Hey, how you doing, Anthony?
Good, man. Pleasure to meet you, man. Electronically.
Yeah. So let me ask this, Anthony. Where are you physically?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Where I grew up.
Okay, I'm downtown right now. I'm off Pine right now.
I lived in the Central West End till I was 10.
You're about 15 minutes from. Yeah, it's about 15 minutes from me.
Yeah, on Westminster Place.
Oh, I know that side. Okay, I have a house off Lindell too. So I'm in my office right now. But yeah, so yeah, you're close to where I was, like, or where I'm at now. That's funny. Where are you at now?
I'm in New York City, actually.
Okay, that's a bigger version of this. It's like the miniature version. Like,
yeah.
So, well, pleasure, man. Like,
Nikki, where are you?
I'm in downtown Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
Hollywood, California, not Hollywood, Florida.
Okay, good.
There's two of them.
We got the entire United States. We got the West Coast, is the center of it, and the East Coast on this episode. It's a huge reach with technology. It's crazy that even is possible. But no, we were getting really into the JFK files. So that's why we reached out to you originally, Jefferson. Like, we were getting really into that, and like when it came out and stuff, and like obviously forever because it's an old story too. I think Frank's answer was the best I've ever heard about it. Though he's just like, I wasn't even here. That made me laugh. But no, you've gone down like a lot of investigation stuff, and like this is kind of a stupid question, but like, what have you found? What have you found in all your investigation that's really interesting to you still? Like, because like you've been in this for a second, you know.
Well, I mean, Anthony, the story of the assassination of President Kennedy, it's kind of like the foundational story of where we're at right now. I think that's a way to think of it. I mean, it's not often thought of that, but the assassination of Kennedy is a break in American history, you know, a very profound break. There's a before and an after. And so I've devoted a lot of time to trying to understand the event, the crime scene, the investigations, all the stories about it. And, you know, the more I've studied it, the less I know. You know, people say, oh, Jeff, who killed President Kennedy? And I say, I don't know. If you want to know somebody who knows, go to the internet. There's 100 people there, maybe 1,000. They know for sure. You want to know for sure? You want somebody who knows for sure? Go to the internet and talk to them, because I don't have the answer. But I can tell you something that those people can't tell you. which is, how did we get here? How did we get to a position where the president of the United States is shot dead in broad daylight and nobody's ever brought to justice for the crime? And 60 years later, nobody's really quite sure what happened. So how did we get there? And that's what I think I can explain to people. And so, like what happened? I think the simplest answer is we were told that the president was shot by one man alone for no reason. Okay. The evidence that we've gotten since then, that's just not what happened. We know that for sure. What did happen, we don't know for sure. But I think the most likely answer after 60 years that we can say is the president was killed by his enemies who had the ability to make the crime look like something else, like it was committed by one guy or somebody else other than the people who actually did it. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we're at. That's where my research leads me. Now, that's not a very satisfying answer because people say, well, Jeff, who killed Kennedy?
It's a real one, though.
Yeah, I don't know. But I would say this, it was a well-designed, clever, covert operation that was designed so that it concealed the hand of the people who did it. Now, is that a conspiracy theory? No, it's a description of a CIA covert operation.
Yeah.
And the details are tough to work out. But I would also say, and this is in thanks part to President Trump, we've learned a lot just recently because Trump, to his credit, ordered the release of a lot of records that tell us a little bit more about this story. And so we're getting a little more insight into it. So that's where I'm coming from on the JFK story.
Well said. Well said. What are your thoughts on it looking like Israel tried to redact it and it looked? I mean, from it's in text isn't evidence, but stuff we're reading in there was basically just saying that it looked like it was Israel funding it and the CIA and mob kind of working together to do it. That's what I read on some paperwork though. That's not surveillance footage. No, I don't think it's hard to it's hard to just pretend like text is evidence.
Yeah,
on that more so.
So, when I say the president was killed by his enemies, so who, I don't think this originated outside of the United States.
Okay.
The movers of something like this, to do something so profound, to kill a president and pretend that it was something else, that was the actions of people within the U.S. government. Now, could they have had assistance from other governments, whatever? Maybe, but I don't think that's a motive factor in the crime. I think that people were motivated. And if you know the period of, that time in American politics, there were people who, hated and feared JFK and said so. They thought he was a threat. They thought he was a weakling, a tyrant, a traitor, and they said so publicly. He had well-placed, powerful enemies, and he was trying to do something different in American history. He was trying to take the country in a different direction. What direction was that? Well, he was trying to wind down the Cold War, this armed confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union, which had been going on since the end of World War II and was a very dangerous situation. And after Kennedy survived the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, where the Soviet Union put missiles into Cuba to stop a U.S. invasion, and the U.S. threatened war to get rid of those missiles, and the world came very close to nuclear war. And it was only the wisdom and the restraint of a John F. Kennedy who literally, saved the world from a war that would have killed 10 million people, 20 million people.
Easily.
I mean, whatever it was, it would have been the most catastrophic event in world history. And JFK avoided it. And I should say this, against the advice of his generals and his top advisors. So when the Cuban Missile Crisis starts in October 1962, they've discovered these missiles. The Soviet Union has installed them secretly on the island. U.S. spy satellites photographs capture the missile bases being built, and they come to Kennedy and say, what do we do? You know, they're obviously trying to trick us. They're trying to get these missiles very close to our borders. Now, from the Soviet point of view, you know, what did they care? They had U.S. missiles 20 miles from their border. So they thought the rules of the game were, well, you have missiles 20 miles from our border, we'll put missiles 90 miles from your border, right? Because that's how you play. So it was kind of a miscalculation of two superpowers. And so they get into this, you know, confrontation, and it's like Kennedy is 24 hours away, 48 hours away. That was his brother's estimate, maybe 48 hours away from having to push the button on a nuclear war that would have killed 10, 20 million people.
Wow.
Over a country that Cuba, which is not economically important, it's not strategically important. I mean, it's a neighbor of the United States, but it's not France, it's not England, it's not Russia, it's not Germany, it's not a great power. And Kennedy was like, we're going to go to war. I'm going to kill 10 million people over something that is not really that important. And so Kennedy learned from that. And he was like, we have to end this. We've got to get out of this, you know, confrontation where we're going to kill each other for no reason.
Yeah.
So in 1963, he starts to do that. And he goes to the American University in Washington and gives a commencement address in June 1963, June 10th, 1963. One of his great speeches. I recommend it to anybody. Look it up on YouTube. JFK American University speech, June 10th, 1963. And what he says in that speech is, he says, we are all mortal. He's talking about the people of the Soviet Union, the people of the United States. We're all just people, you know. We're not very different. We live under different systems, and the difference between the systems are important. You know, we think rights are important. You think that's important, whatever. But whatever it wasn't worth it to annihilate each other because we had differences. And that was Kennedy's point of Kennedy's speech. And he says in the speech, we need a strategy for peace. And I think that's a very profound message for our time. And this is what we lost with Kennedy. We don't have presidents with a strategy for peace anymore.
There's no money in peace.
Yeah. Not Trump, not Obama, not Biden, not Bush, not Clinton.
Every president has had their own war.
Yeah. And so what's happened is our presidents have learned they've got to make peace with this war machine. I mean, maybe that's too strong a machine. Military industrial complex. I mean, call it what you want.
Same thing.
Kennedy was saying we need to change that system. Nobody's really said that since. You know, they want to get along with that system. They want to make it a little bit better. They want to tinker with it, but they're not saying let's go in a new, different direction. They're not saying let's have a strategy for peace. So,
like lose
to me, that's the importance of Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's just like saying like let's get rid of the guys with guns and they just kill them. We're getting rid of all these guys with weapons and they're like, you're the guys with the weapons, fucking kill them. You know, that's or whatever. I mean, just a lot of people, man. Like I mean, man, the way the world's market works, like war is economical, sadly, for like poor people or so, you know, and like then they just don't care about anything else, you know. And so
well, right, and it's reached a point of diminishing returns, right? Completely. Like right now, we're funding two big wars in Ukraine and Gaza.
Insane.
Do these wars make America safer?
No, I want nothing to do with any war, like any foreign war. I'm like, get out of here. If you attack me, I'll knock you out. But outside of that, like, chill out. Like, I don't want anything to do with this, you know?
Yeah, and so, but we've got a system geared for war now.
Yeah, sales. It's all sales to these like 8 guys, maybe. I don't know.
So I talk about Kennedy's assassination as a turning point because
it is.
We lost that with Kennedy. Nobody has picked up that mantle of strategy for peace. And that's important. We need to remember, how did we lose that? And what was the vision? How could we get back to a strategy for peace?
That's a great point. I think like that's the world's biggest problem right now. I think like I mean, and there's a lot of them, but I mean, I think that's one of the biggest problems in all these annoying wars, man.
Well, the cost is huge. And you know what? We're not in great shape at home. If we're spending money, we should be spending it on Americans, trying to lift people up. There's a lot of abandoned areas in the country that don't have investment. Money that we're spending on those wars, we should be investing it in communities around the country that don't have resources, and those resources could be redirected. So that's why it matters. That's why Kennedy's assassination still matters, because we've lost that strategy for peace, and we're squandering our resources in foreign wars that don't serve the people, and we got to get back to serving the people.
Yeah, it just seems like a CIA takeover because they're just doing all their work basically. Like all these wars are just, I mean, they're just like CIA proxy wars. It seems like. I mean, again, we're pretending to follow these people. I mean, what we have to do with Israel or Gaza is insane to me. I'm like, I don't even care. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude. Like, I'm Christian even. And I don't care. I'm like, I don't care about that. Like a lot of Christians think we have to back these people for no reason. And it's like, I want nothing to do with any of these people. Like, I don't want anything to do with Russia, Ukraine. I want nothing to do with any of it, man. Like,
yeah.
If a strategy for peace makes money, that's a great point. I mean, we need to make peace profitable. That's a great point.
Well,
Genius idea.
that's the thing. If we gave peace a chance, peace might be profitable. We haven't tried it because we have an economy geared towards war.
Let's figure out a way to make peace profitable. That's interesting. That's a very interesting point.
We'd have to rebuild everything from the ground up, I feel like,
It's probably good at this point.
whole system reset, and that would just like crumble. I mean, I feel like people would have so much resistance to that because, like, I mean, our whole like the way that we like have our society is like we glorify violence. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's part of the programming, the MK Ultra programming, to get people to be part of the army and go out and kill people for us and make it seem like it's right, that's how we should solve our problems, is by being violent. Like the fact that they allow kids to play these violent shooting games, but like having your titties out on TV is like somehow super crazy.
Terrible. Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like, we have everything kind of backwards because that's how we've been conditioned in like mind controlled and programmed. And it would take a whole lot of just not like personal one-on-one deprogramming, but like collective deprogramming for us to really realize like how much just watching that kind of stuff is for our subconscious mind,
Yeah. I mean, we have a cultural, I'm talking about, when you talk about the president and policies, that's kind of the structure of government, which is important. But then we've got the culture behind it, yes, which glorifies violence and says, annihilating the enemy is glorious, and we're right, they're wrong. We're good, they're bad. We're good, they're evil. And if you look at the United States, we always have a Hitler, right? We've always had a Hitler. It might be Fidel Castro, might be Saddam Hussein, might be Osama bin Laden, might be Vladimir Putin, but we always have a guy who's evil, who we have to destroy.
Yeah.
And so that's the message to the society. There's an evil guy out there, and you know what? Those guys are pretty bad, okay? That goes without saying. But why is it our job to go hunt down and destroy these monsters? I mean, there are evil men in the world. There always have been. Why is it the mission of the United States, we have to go and apply violence to that person to do what?
Yeah.
Like make us safer?
It's like a Marvel movie.
Maybe sometimes we have to go to war to make ourselves safer, but
yeah.
Why are we always at war? Like, since my kids were born, I think about this a lot, and I tell them my kids were born in 87 and 94. I mean, the United States has been at war pretty much their entire lives. And it's like, why? That's not necessary. That's not normal.
No.
That wasn't normal in the United States before. And now it is normal. So how do we get out of that? That's the problem.
When were you born?
58.
We've probably been in war the whole time you've been alive too. It's like the Korean War, Vietnam. I mean, all this weird skirmishes we had in Africa and like Asia, and like, so the whole. I think we've been at war since like inception. I mean, our country's only a war. We just like beat up the British. We're like nah,
Certainly since 1947, since the passage of the National Security Act, which created the Defense Department and created the CIA and created the whole system of secrecy. That was all created in 1947. It didn't exist before that. So, we're talking about 75 years. And in the middle of that, in 1963, you really have this turning point where the president is calling into question, whether the system works, whether it's good for the country. And he's aroused, powerful enemies in his own government who are opposed to what he's saying. And then the president is killed under, you have to say, weird, mysterious circumstances. Yeah. He's killed, and the guy who killed him is killed.
Yeah, that was weird.
Nobody's ever brought to justice for the crime.
No one even got to question him, really. Like, that was the most suspicious thing about it, I think. The fact that
he didn't even know.
Right. And
he's like, what are you talking about?
And he denied. Oswald, the guy accused of committing the crime, denies it. Right. And then he's killed.
He didn't even know about it. Like, the first question from the press before he was shot was like, why did you kill the president? He's like, I haven't been accused of that yet. Like, he's like a black guy, and he's like, I haven't been accused of that. What are you talking about? And then somebody shoots him. I mean,
no. And in fact, Oswald was not formally charged with killing the president. He was killed before he was formally charged with it.
That's crazy.
And then he was convicted by the Warren Commission without the benefit of defense, without
wow.
What anybody any American in a criminal procedure deserves, right? A right to defend yourself in court. Yes. He didn't get that. He gets convicted by, a bogus, what we now know is a bogus investigation. It was not serious. It was designed to pin the blame on him and not find any other explanation. So that one corrupt event has really corrupted American life. And it's very sad because now, who's going to trust the government to do anything? I mean, the government does a lot of things really well, but people can always come along and say, look at that. They're lying to you about JFK. And so then it becomes, they're lying to you about UFOs. They're lying to you about Social Security. They're lying to you about everything. And, it works. It's not totally true, but it's not totally false either. And so we undermine our own belief in our ability to act together and just be a good society and take care of each other and act collectively in our own interest. Mm-hmm. So it's very debilitating and demoralizing for a democratic country to go through something like this. And we still suffer from it, and that's why I pay attention to the Kennedy assassination, because to me, that's like the beginning of the illness. That's where that was the germ that got us sick.
Well, they got away with it. And so they knew because they got away with it, they could continue to get away with it. If they didn't, exactly. It probably wouldn't have continued. But it's like a child. If a kid gets away with acting out, they're just going to keep acting out because no one's holding them accountable.
Yeah, no. And so the fact that we didn't have accountability after the president is killed under these very suspicious circumstances, which now that we know how the CIA works and how covert operations work, we've learned a lot. And so we know this kind of trickery, that's what they do. And so we know that we know that the story that we've been given, it's not the full story. It's a some of it might be true,
Half truth.
but it's a diversion, and the whole society, our whole politics has been debilitated because of it. And so, I'm not sure how we can get out of it, but I am sure that we can't be healthy again until we understand what happened to President Kennedy. I put it that way.
Yeah, I
It's
think
like the mob has their hands in the government.
Yeah.
It's like the mob. It's like a mob type entity is now like, oh shit, like we killed the president and got away with it. Like we're the ones who like we're at the top of the gang. Like we're like the gang leaders now, because like the one who was running shit, if we could get away with killing him, like every other president is going to be afraid that like we'll be able to do that again. And basically that gives them power to kind of be the ones, the puppeteer masters, the puppet masters. At the end of the day,
yeah, and the presidents who followed, it's interesting what we've learned about what other presidents thought about President Kennedy. Harry Truman, a predecessor of President Kennedy, and Lyndon Johnson, a successor, and Richard Nixon, another successor. Those three presidents all thought that the CIA was involved in Kennedy's murder.
Yes.
They didn't say it publicly, but they did say it privately. Well, Truman said it publicly.
Yeah.
Nixon and Johnson said it privately. But, and these men are not crazy. They're not conspiracy theorists. These are men of power. They knew how power worked in America.
Incredible people.
They've been president. Truman created the CIA. And so, they intuited what people believed, which was the president was killed by his enemies. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's some of the strongest evidence I've ever heard. I always ask people who defend the official story. I say, well, if Lyndon Johnson, who appointed the Warren Commission, if he didn't believe the Warren Commission, which he did not believe, why should I believe them? And nobody's ever been able to answer that question for me. It's like, the fact is, people at the top of the U.S. government knew what had happened. They couldn't say it publicly for all sorts of reasons. Yeah. But privately, they said it, and on multiple occasions, very clearly. So that's kind of the backstory that we've learned, is this wasn't some crazy thing that people dreamed up. This is what people of power understood right away. Somehow, they didn't have the explanation. It's not easy to figure out. Well, we haven't figured it out yet, because it's a very complex, sophisticated operation that was designed so that the people who were responsible could always plausibly deny. Plausible deniability. That's the CIA's watchword. If we can plausibly deny that we were involved, we're good. And so, for 60 years, it's not really plausible anymore. They sort of have implausible deniability now. Like they tell a story and it's like, that's not really true, but you can't quite prove that it's not true. Right. And so, but people know, and what I hope is that we're getting to a point where we're kind of fucked up as a country, and we need to come to terms with what's gone wrong. Yeah. And, I think this is an important thing that went wrong. And if we got it right, I don't know how it would work. I just think we'd be in a better place if we could just say, that's what happened. That's the reality of America, good or bad. Let's accept it and move on from here. But let's not fool ourselves about where the centers of power were in America, or how people got away with this. Let's not fool ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think it ruined. I think it ruined the perception of America that Americans have for America and the world. Basically, like America seemed like a really like everyone's wearing a suit, very clean place until that point. I think, like in my perspective of like that like just 1900 to like 1963 kind of era, it was like everybody was like it seemed like clean and like people had morals and values and all this stuff, and they believed their doctor, they believed their government, they believed their cop, they believed like everybody because like everybody had like values and it wasn't like a single mom epidemic, you know, like to where like just now it's just like there's no family basically across the board. 70% of like are just fatherless. You know, I mean it's just like
dysfunctional families.
Yeah, it's just like I mean that's
general, like just deception, and I mean there was dysfunction and deception before, but I feel like it skyrocketed because it's like it's almost like if the government is almost a parental figure to us. Like we believe them. It's like our parents. It's like we believe them. We blindly believe them because like they're the ones in charge, right? Like we're supposed to be able to believe them. And then we find out we can't. It's like, oh, well then fuck you. I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. Like
they ruined the innocence of America, you know? They ruined like the innocence of it. Because we were the winners of World War II. We were the good guys, right? Like we were the good guys. We stopped the evil, like, you know, and then like all this stuff happened. It's like, okay, now we're I mean, looking at a lot of the operations, we absorbed a lot of the Nazis. I mean, in the space program, and then Project Mockingbird looks like everybody that's famous is CIA, and that probably had something to do with the Jeffrey Epstein bust, where they used all that blackmail on him and stuff. So I mean, it's just like, I mean, we're still experiencing all this stuff where most of these people are probably feds, and the feds learned from the mafia, and they learned from everybody else and all the other criminals they busted, and like you know, I mean, they took over Vegas. I mean, in the 70s. I mean, so it's just like, I mean, it's just like I don't know. It's just like I don't know. We're just living in like a corporate dictatorship. Really, it's weird.
Yeah, totally.
Super weird. I like Tom's thing here. It's like it'd be real easy to do peace. We do peace all the time. I like that. I like the optimism and the beauty in that sentence, man. I like that a lot. I think there were bad people, but things were less morally ambiguous. It seemed like that. Yeah, it seemed like yeah. There was like everybody knew who the bad guy was. It was the guy robbing the bank or something. Some guy, everybody's like, that's the bad guy. You know. Now it's like the people you trust and like you don't know. You can't believe anybody really at this point. It's sad. It's full of like, I mean, there's very few people to trust on this earth because of this. I mean, people are they'll just lie without consequence. They'll just they won't even feel bad. They'll just do it. It's crazy. I don't know. The world's ugly right now, and I think it's like, several religions talk about it. Really, I mean, like the Hinduism looks like Kali Yuga, where it's like the 1,000-year rule of like evil and stuff, and people are doing intoxicants constantly and like just lying and love of self in the Book of Revelation. You know, love of self, merchants of great men. And we're in this weird time frame where like evil just allowed to exist for some reason, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. I think the Kennedy thing was a huge like pivotal moment to where like I mean, at least in America, I mean, it may have been different other places, but we lost that like ice cream kind of like I just want to eat ice cream in a suit type vibe that we had, you know. Where everyone had a haircut and stuff. Everyone's doing great, you know. Like Frankie would say, everybody's doing great, you know.
A haircut, yeah. Yep.
No, it's
the picket fence. It was like the nuclear family.
The adolescence of America, almost, you know, the adolescence. I mean, the years before that were rough, though. I mean, if you the 1700s to the 1900s were probably the roughest time in America. Like, I'm getting DoorDash, and these guys are just like dying at like 25 and stuff.
Dude, the Wild Wild West when there wasn't any like law. Like I watch a lot of like old school like Wild West TV shows, and it's funny like they'll have like one sheriff. And so like if a gang of like robbers want to like come in and take over the town, like it's super easy for them to just take shit over and like do whatever they want because there was like no established government. Like
no, and that kind of the Western mythology is very ingrained in the American imagination, right? Yes. Which is the world is lawless, so you know, one man with a gun can set things right. One white man with a gun,
right,
can set things right. A black man with a gun, that's a problem. But a righteous white man, you know. So that's, I mean, that's just.
It's not our fault we're better heroes, Jefferson. You know, so that's like it's not our fault we're better heroes. I'm just fucking around.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's kind of the norm that we have, and so that influences, you know. So how do we think about a war? How do we, you know, and it feeds into the idea that, you know, there's an evil monster out there, and I have to go slay him, you know, And
Yeah.
so there's Saddam Hussein, there's Osama bin Laden, there's Fidel Castro. We have to go kill that guy to be American.
Yeah.
And that's a myth. That's a delusion. That's a self-delusion. It doesn't serve us well, and leads us into forever wars. In part. I mean, there's other things that are involved, obviously, but yeah, that's the norm that we have now. So, how do we get out of that? How do we get into something that's a little more rational, a little more sustainable, a little more humane, a little less violent? That's what I'm trying to kind of grope my way towards.
That's a good goal. I mean, that's a realistic goal. I think like along the way, like a lot of stuff. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry took over, and like a lot of corporations and stuff. And like, I think over the period of time, like a lot of that stuff happened, where like, we just need to go back to like the roots and what made life. I mean, life's pretty awesome, really, if we don't consume media. But there are some problems we can easily fix as well. I think. I think our drinking water situation is crazy. I don't know how people use that shit. Like, I drink like out of wells and stuff. Like, I couldn't even imagine. Like, I don't know. Like people just, I don't want to get to that, but like it's gross. And like I feel like, and then like water's huge, and then the food, obviously. I mean, we have so much farmland, we could easily fix the food problem. And then like once people are like eating actual nutrients instead of clones, and like drinking actual water that doesn't have like poison and fecal matter in it, like basically like we'll probably evolve. Probably be like our body will be running better, and then like glorify working out over vaping probably.
People like Big Pharma makes money off of us being sick. You know what I mean? It's all one like system that's kind of like feeding off of itself. Just like the war,
Yeah, I mean, I what is the connection between that war, that system of war that we're geared to, and then these the media landscape, which is dominated by big advertisers, big economic interests that can move huge numbers of people, like at huge scale, platforms like Facebook and Twitter, and how do those companies, they exercise such control over our lives, and then we've got this war economy. I don't know exactly how those two things are related, but somehow they are, right? They're part of our system. They're both features of our system. So.
Oh, great points, man. Like, what got you into writing, man? This is kind of an off-subject question. Like, what got you into writing? You wrote a lot of books. I mean, I think that's it's a lot of work to write one book, let alone several. So, like,
I was lucky when I was a kid. I knew when I was about 17, 18, I was going to be a newspaper reporter. I knew that.
That's cool. And you were with Washington Post, correct?
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, and then I had a lot of good fortune along the way and got good jobs and, rose in the profession. So I was lucky in that way. But, you asked what got me into it. I like to tell stories that people didn't know.
That's awesome.
And I think, that's what I like about the JFK story was I realized this is a place where I can tell people stuff they didn't know, and not crazy conspiracy theories, but like stuff that really happened,
I like your original answer on that, because it was very honest versus like trying to flex or something like that. Like you say, like, I mean, it is an open case. So, I mean, it's very honest. I mean, to be real, I appreciate that. And like, so yeah, if you Google, or you look up Jefferson's name on Amazon, he's got several books. I think 15, correct? You wrote about 15 books or so, or
no, I've got 5 books.
5, okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of books.
Yeah. But if people want to know more about what I do, my books, Our Man in Mexico is the story of the CIA's top man in Mexico in the 1960s. Winston Scott was his name. My book, The Ghost, is about James Angleton, senior CIA official for many years from 1950s to 1970s, very powerful, sinister man. And then Scorpion's Dance is the story of Richard Nixon, 35th president, and Richard Helms, the eighth director of the CIA, and their very complex relationship. So the JFK story runs through my 3 CIA books. They're not books about Kennedy, and they're not books about conspiracy, but they're about how did the assassination of President Kennedy look to people in the CIA, right? When I wrote these books, I thought, Jeff, nobody gives a shit about what your theory is about JFK. It's not, everybody's got a theory. It's boring. It's like, don't go there. What these guys at the top of the CIA, what they thought about who killed JFK, that's really interesting, and nobody knows it.
Great point. Yeah.
And so that's what I tried to do in my books, is not give my theory. It's like, what did this event look like to these men on the inside? And when you look at it that way, the official story's bullshit because they did not see it that way. None of those 3 men who were at the very top of the CIA, they were the founding generation of the organization. They are the founding fathers of the CIA in many ways. They didn't believe that story of the lone gunman, not for a minute.
No one did, I don't think, really. I mean, I haven't talked to many people. I mean, I don't know. Like today, it seems like nobody believes it.
Well, people believed it because they wanted to believe it, and their government told them, and they trusted their government. Which I understand. That's an understandable impulse. But it wasn't true in this case. So yeah. So my books, kind of illuminate and give you a different way to look at what happened to President Kennedy, not through the lens of conspiracy, but through the lens of the CIA. How did the CIA look at this, and how did they understand it? And I think if you do that, you can really understand the whole thing in a different way, and you can bypass the whole bullshit conspiracy debate. Like, just, get rid of it and focus on what actually happened. What did the people who were there, what did they say? What actually happened? And skip the theories. Because if you do that, you don't get the final answer, but you understand generally what happened, and you can feel confident about that and decide, what it means. Somebody killed the president and got away with it. What does that mean? Well, those were powerful people. They had the ability to do it. Who are they? What do they represent? What are their values? That's what we need to take away from Kennedy's assassination. And if we do that, then I think maybe there's some hope for us today.
I think you're right, man. Like, Janie's got a question saying, do you have a personal guess of who the trigger man was, more or less?
There's some plausible suspects about who else, fired a gun at President Kennedy. We have a story on my website, JFK Facts, now, about some new documents that have emerged about a Cuban.
What's the website?
JFK Facts on Substack. jfkfacts.substack.com is my newsletter, my news site about the JFK story. I report, almost daily about new information about what's coming out of the new files, what we've learned, what the best researchers are saying. Again, we skip all the conspiracy theories. If you want a conspiracy theory, don't come to our site. We don't have any. You want to know what happened? We're the place to go.
Yeah.
Because we'll have the latest information about that. And so to answer your question, there's a Cuban man who named Herminio Diaz, and some of his friends came to believe that he was a gunman in Dealey Plaza. These are not his enemies; these were his friends, and they came to believe it. So, is it definitely true? I wouldn't say it's definitely true, but it's a reasonable suspicion. And so on JFK Facts, we have a story right now actually about him and about a new document that emerged about him that tells us a little bit more about him. So is that a definitive story about who killed President Kennedy? No, but it's an interesting story about a plausible suspect. I'll just leave it at that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, what was your favorite part about working in the Washington Post? Like, what was that? Did you have like a big article or moment or story or something that kind of was just like a just awesome feeling kind of thing? Like, I mean, yeah, I just feel like you're in a situation. I don't know a lot of people who are in that situation. So,
so I worked there for 15 years, and a newsroom of a big newspaper is a kind of city unto itself. You have lots of different jobs. You don't do one thing. Like, you move, pretty much the norm would be you move every 2 years to a new desk, a new section, so I did a lot of things. I worked in a lot of sections, the opinion section, which was called Outlook, the Metro section. I covered the cops, state legislature in Maryland. I worked on the style desk. I worked on the online news. I worked in online foreign news. So I did a lot of different things. I think the best work I did was for the Washington Post Sunday magazine, where, I mean, for me, the natural thing was a longer story, more like a magazine story, a couple thousand words, not a couple hundred words, where you can develop characters and personalities. So to me, that was a great, pleasure. I mean, I had front page stories in the Washington Post, and that was a great feeling to have a front page story. I did one about a kid from Maryland who was drafted for the NBA right out of high school, and was like a very dramatic story about him. So, I loved it. I loved working for a major newspaper. I mean, was it fucked up? Did they do stupid shit? Was the Washington Post compromised in ways? Yeah, sure they were. But overall, it was a great enterprise. I was very proud to be associated with it, with a newspaper that had principles and was dedicated to reporting, and enabled me to do a lot of work that I was very lucky. So and that's the Washington Post today, that's not the same thing. They've got a publisher who is not interested in standing up to the president.
I like that you pointed that out, because I can separate this too, where I'm like it's a pleasure to meet somebody that's been a writer for them, but they also called me a white supremacist, so I have mixed views on them. It's like, and it wasn't you, it was some other writer, obviously, but I'm just like, it's just so crazy the witch hunts it turned into and stuff, rather than just like a real story about stuff, like just newspapers in general, to be honest, not just the Washington Post. I'd say the same about local press too, but it's like, so I can be proud, and I have a lot of friends and writers and stuff too. But I can be like happy for something, and I think you're right. I think it had a lot of good years, and I think it did stuff. And like now, it's like Bezos is like PR machine or something. It's like that's what it feels like to me personally. And I'm not like trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just saying my personal opinion of it. Of it now. And like I said, I can separate bad press from like good writers. I appreciate what you do and stuff still, and I agree. I have criticism of them as well, but I still think it's a very prestigious thing to do. Very cool to have a job for 15 years in like that kind of kind of pumping system for the world. That's a huge that molds mind.
Yeah. No, and then you have a good ride, and then you know what? You get bounced, right? Like I got squeezed out. I had to take a buyout. Like the corporate world intervened. And, okay, I just had to roll with the punches.
You do in life, that's very important. Very important to do in life, You can't just get caught up in like what, like, anything I've ever lost, I'm always like, all right, next, it's like, you got to be like, I mean, personal experience, I try to be a musician. I got blacklisted. I tried to be a writer. I got blacklisted. So I went into comedy. I switched a career every time they blacklisted me from something. like all the good venues in music blacklisted me, for something. And then like same thing with writing and all that stuff. And just like, I'm like, all right, I'm a comedian now, I guess. Cause like you told me I can't do that. So it's like, it's just like a weird thing. Like America's really weird. And I think we have to think around it as free people, and just kind of like, they're going to word us into slavery if we just let them, So you got to fight however you can, as peacefully as you can, obviously too, because they're only ready for war. They're only ready for drones and robots to kill us and starve us and whatever else. I mean, they're only ready for that. But if you like come at them like loving, and you just actually can handle it, I mean, I don't think they can handle that. I don't think they can handle the raw power of good,
Yeah, let's hope.
I don't think most people can. I think good's the strongest force on earth other than love, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like, I mean, evil. I mean, you can take me off the planet, but my soul's forever. You know, that's how I feel about everything. You know, it's like, it's like having, I don't know. I mean, if you feel like that, I know that's probably has nothing to do with JFK, but I was just saying that. But no, hey, Jefferson, if you want to throw any more stuff people should look up before we get out of here, and then we got a couple things for promo on our end too. But
yeah, so if people are interested in this, if they're interested in the JFK story, come to JFK Facts on Substack, jfkfacts.substack.com, and we report, you know, what's coming out because of Trump's order, what's been learned, what are the best researchers saying, what's the bad information, what's the good information. We're a good place to go if that's what you're interested in. And why does it matter today? We also talk about that a lot. So check it out.
I think it's important to hear a huge story and bless you, by the way, to hear like a huge story and stuff like that, and then go down the rabbit hole from a career writer that is good at articulating and stuff too. I think it's very important as somebody that writes to get stories like this out there. So thank you very much for you coming on here, brother, and pleasure to meet you. And I was hyped about this. And then if you're watching at home, you got a decent amount of people watching still. Tomorrow night, we're going to announce the winners for the Daytona Rock Fest, or Rockville rather. And so we're going to pick 4 people that commented on one of the you have to comment on the Rogers Show Instagram on one of the videos Nikki posted, and you will one of the videos she posted talking about the contest. So I have to elaborate. My friends will call me. All right. So if you want a chance on that, go there to Rogers Show Instagram, comment on there, and like these passes are like $350 worth of like, and they gave us amazing prizes to give to people and stuff. So I mean, I appreciate the opportunity, and if you want to go to a festival for free, that's the best way to do it right now. Definitely. And then you got anything, Nikki, before we go there?
No, just follow my Instagram, Nikki X Nightly. We're gonna be premiering a new segment tomorrow on tomorrow's episode, which I'm really excited about. It's called Holy Smut Hollywood Boulevard Confessions, where I walk around Hollywood Boulevard and ask people super crazy questions, and we get live, authentic, real interviews of people on Hollywood Boulevard. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Thank you all. Buy all of Jefferson's books. Buy several copies of it. Each room in the house. And then thank you all for watching the show. Without you guys watching, this would be a Zoom call. And so I really appreciate the viewer. And thank you all. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks Anthony. So thanks, Nikki.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.